A very warm welcome to Amit Bhalla, Head of IR of Schneider Electric. Thank you very much for joining us to this interview. And let me start first of all by congratulating you to a fantastic achievement in the Europe Executive Team Survey 2020, where you have positioned in overall first place in the capital goods sector. Fantastic achievement. Share with us, Amit, your views on what do those awards mean to you and to your management?
Well, thank you, first of all, Amani, for for having me, for having Schneider Electric, and also for the award, which I must say at the outset, we're delighted with. A couple of reasons. I think your institutional investor research, the erstwhile Extel, according to me, is probably the most independent and sort of agnostic award. So from that standpoint, we know we get the ratings and the views of the buy side and the sell side together. So to really have been, getting so many awards in 2020 on the capital goods side is very satisfying and inspires us to do more, actually. So, I think it's something which we take seriously. It's something that a management looks at as well. And most importantly, I thought this year we actually got the most honored company tag as well, which goes beyond capital goods. So thank you very much for the recognition.
Yes, that's very, very true. Fantastic achievement. It obviously has been an unprecedented year for a lot of companies. Share with us a little bit, how did you overcome the challenges? What are sort of the practical measures that you have taken throughout this challenging time?
I mean, yes, it's been challenging. I think more than ever, we recognize that we live in a world of uncertainty, and it's only been accentuated through the COVID crisis. I think for us, it's been really back to the basics. We understand how difficult it is for the economists, for the investors, and mostly in the course of last year, as things were developing so quickly, to really be able to assess, what the future might hold or how companies would react. So I think for us, what we did was really two things. On the one hand, we wanted to be as close to our business. We are a global company. We're in more than 100 countries. We have, over 100,000 people, and several of them, in areas which were hotbeds of, contagion at the time. And of course, we have a unique structure within the company. We call it the multi-local structure. So a lot of empowerment, at the country level to take quick decisions and stuff, which was very useful, in fact, through the crisis. But really for my team, it was the idea to stay very clued in with each of those teams to really know what's transpiring on the ground, how things are developing, and then ensuring that, we were just transparent and we were very sort of, open, as open as we could be, right, given the circumstances with, with our stakeholders, in this case, the investor community. But certainly, I mean, even today, we're not, COVID is still, we all learn to live with it, but it's still there. The uncertainty is still there. So I think just the ability to, to be absolutely transparent and understand the concerns of different stakeholders, I think in my mind is very, very important.
Yes, very true. We've obviously all gone through a very quick adoption of technological platforms or other channels to engage with our stakeholders. IR digitization has been obviously a buzzword preceding that pandemic that we're going through. What are the tools and ways that you were actually incorporating IR digitization into your IR work that makes it so effective and efficient?
No, I think, it's a great question. I mean, according to me, I think it's, it's more than a buzzword. It's, it's something which is very real. It's something that's absolutely necessary if we want to get to the next level of, efficiency, if we want to be sustainable in our actions, if we want to be effective. And for us, it's not something that we have just sort of thought about, as a company. One of our key mottos is to help, our customers digitize. So it's but natural that, we are looking at, digital as an enabler within the company for several years as well. And I think the same applies to, to IR. Of course, through COVID, it's all been accentuated because, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, how things have changed and, in the IR world. But the way I look at digitization within IR is probably from a couple of couple of criteria. So the first one is just doing a lot more data analytics, which means that try to take the subjectivity out of your decisions and how you approach things, and you basically use data. And we've been doing that consistently, where it could be simple things like using data analytics to see how our shareholder base has been evolving over a period of time. Take it a level further to try to see how, with some of our leading investors, how have their flows been impacted. ESG data. I mean, there are several levels of data analytics, which I think is are very important. The second element, of course, is also performance. So we look increasingly at analytics when we're looking at our performance versus performance of our competitors, just so that we're able to give different levels of insight and analytics in our communication with our investor group. The second element, and of course that's been further accentuated because of COVID, as I said, is the fact that most of the interactions have now become digital, right? So for us, even before 2020, we had already kickstarted digital interactions with our investor groups. In many cases, we were using sort of almost quarterly touch points, and obviously we were using digital tools to do that. And we've done obviously a lot more of that in 2020. And if I really look back to what that has meant, and we've looked at the stats, and we've actually probably doubled the amount of interaction we would have had in a normal year in 2020. So on the one hand, it's good because we can reach a lot more people. At the same time, it's also exhausting because it's double the amount of things that we've done. But I mean, those I think are a couple of areas of incorporating digital. Of course, there's digital tools which are fast developing, which is not surprising given how things are evolving. And we're constantly on the lookout to challenge ourselves and to find new ways to find more productivity within the department.
Amit, could you kindly share with us some of the initiatives and activities that you have done internally to actually position the investor relations function inside the company, but also bring the outside voice into the company?
Oh, it's a really good question and a very important aspect. What we've done is we've actually instituted and formalized an internal training program, so to speak. It's in several modules, and we tried it with a pilot group of leaders. Effectively, what we're doing is we've tried to put together the entire perspective of the financial community, what they expect of us, what they expect of other companies, and really trying to ensure that the company leadership, and not just the top leadership, but we've now instituted it to probably the top 1,000 or 1,500 of our leaders, and it's now become almost a compulsory part of the training curriculum. And I think that's an initiative which is important because that, and less so to really showcase what IR does, but more importantly for people across the company to really understand the pressures as well as the opportunities that the financial markets could have on the business, and how what they're doing is ultimately linked with this important stakeholder group as well.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that also impacts, of course, your level of knowledge and business understanding, as well as they're feeding information back to you too internally.
No, I mean, very, very much. I mean, it really opens up many dialogues within the company. As we all know, these are very, very interesting, topics for discussion. It keeps my team very up to date with what's happening within the company as well, and the other way around. So I think it's a healthy practice. It's one which is obviously one of the initiatives we've taken in the last year, and it's been well received.
Mm. Yeah, very good. You've also just mentioned ESG, Amit, and this is obviously of growing importance. It has also gained more momentum during the pandemic. Share with us where you're at in terms of your ESG journey, and what are the events or activities that you're doing around ESG? And also importantly, how do you find alignment with investors on that area?
Well, let me again sort of start by thanking you again, because one of the recognitions we got was around the ESG metrics, where we made very strong progress. It's an area which is very important and real for us. So the fact that ESG becomes a lot more relevant to the investor community is certainly very welcome from our side. As a company, we have been focused on ESG actively for almost 20 years now. And it's for good reason. On the one hand, 70% of our revenues today, last year we did 25 billion of revenues in euros. 70% is what we categorize as green revenue. So a large part of our business effectively is an enabler. It's a part of the solution, when you're looking at, sustainability challenges in the world. And so it's obviously it's good business for us as well, and we're able to provide solutions for sustainability. We have now a sustainability business by itself within the company. But at the same time, as a company, we have taken some very important and challenging commitments with regards to ESG as well. We've been doing that systematically for many years, and we've recently sort of announced our commitments, the next set of our commitments, which go through in detail through to 2025. Of course, we have commitments for 2030, 2040, and 2050 as well. Having said all of that, we're glad that we're well rated amongst various agencies, and just a few months ago we were rated the world's most sustainable company, in fact, by Corporate Knights as well. So the idea is to continuously challenge ourselves, raise the bar. We know that a lot of companies are talking about ESG today. It's the hot topic. We've been talking about ESG before it became the topic of the day, so to speak. But really, the idea is that we want to be as transparent and to share as much around our efforts. Talk about things that actually make an impact. So of course, we speak about our scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, but increasingly we're focused more on scope 4. We're really focused on what we can, what change we can bring about. And what we practically did, I think it was in October or November last year, we had a dedicated all virtual ESG investor day. So I think it was the first amongst the industrial companies for us to do that. It was a half-day event, very well attended. It's still on our website if folks are keen to go and watch. But again, I think ESG is very central to our story. It's central to our growth, and it's also one of the reasons that people join the company and continue to stay with the company as well.
Yes, very good. We've recently conducted a poll with investors and corporates alike to understand what the market sentiment with regards to activism is. The buy side has responded and actually said that they're expecting an increase on the front of activism. The flip side of that is that corporates actually more than 50% are not prepared and don't have a real plan in the back pocket. How do you see that? What is your view and what is your approach with regards to mitigating potential risk there?
It's certainly a trend that one has seen over the last few years, predominantly, I suspect, in the US first and more recently in Europe as well. I think it's just it's good practice to for companies to be prepared. I think it's part of the role of the board of directors, and I'm sure in many companies that's the role that they play as well. I think what IR teams need to do or should be doing is of course one can't really actually fully prepare down to down to the bottom exactly of what a company might face or might not face. But the only thing I would say is that it's very important to to be able to listen carefully, in your ongoing interactions with investors at all points of time. If you're getting something which comes as a surprise, it obviously means that you haven't really been close to the pulse about things as they were transpiring. And look, at the end of the day, any investor, whether they are long term or activist or however you might call them, ultimately looking at enhancing value, looking at how you can generate more value from your business model. So I think that's probably part of just normal practice for companies and for IR teams to cover all angles and to make sure that any kind of vulnerabilities are being actively discussed within the company.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Investor relations is obviously subject to a lot of pressure. Where do you see other trends in the future that may actually impact the function and its strategic actually nature?
ESG is becoming more important in the decisions of most investor groups and their clients, which I think is absolutely the right thing to happen. But that's clearly a trend which is new, which is different. In the future, we've MIFID has been discussed, I think, in a lot of detail in the past years. But there clearly is a shift. I see a lot of the buy side is very happy to directly engage with us as against going through the sell side, as was probably the norm in the past. I think they're all beefing up their own corporate access teams as well. And now with with digital, where it's we don't really need to wait for formal road shows or things like that. It's the ability to to have a quick Zoom or Teams or whatever call like this one we're having right now. And so I think really the role of the different stakeholders seems to be changing a little bit as well. We've all been seeing more recently the power that retail investors, the millennials, etc., seem to be having, in the context of volatility, in the context of significant share price movement of certain companies, etc. So I think it's those are all areas that that probably are changing trends as we see today.
Yeah, definitely. And in your experience now within the investor relations role, what are your absolute must-have to ensure that you achieve such fantastic and successful IR program?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no magic recipe. We're very happy with the recognition. The most important thing that I found is really diversity. I want to make sure that we have a very diverse team. That's something that we have put together here. And by diversity, I mean really having different skill sets amongst the team, right? So I think in many circumstances, IR could be seen as communication or finance, etc. For me, it's just so much broader. We are the amount of value that additional value you can create, or on the flip side that you can the damage that you could potentially do can be immense. So I think it's really important that we have different ideas on the table. We are being creative, and we're constantly trying to put ourselves in the shoes of investors. And and we all know that there are different kinds of investors with different time horizons or aspirations, and really be able to in a very consistent manner build their trust, or at least share and understand what they're looking at. At the same time, I think it's incredibly important to ensure that it's a two-way communication, right? So it's not just about, look, this is our equity story, and this is what we share with the financial community. But I think it's probably even more important, as I said earlier, to listen carefully and to and to really ensure that we're passing the messages the other direction as well internally, and then building the credibility to really to drive some changes within the company to really have a seat on that table. And I think that that's only possible if you really build the trust both internally and externally over a period of time. I think it's about the people. So you need to get good talent. You need to develop them. No company should underestimate the amount of positive impact an IR team can make.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, you've just mentioned some key words here in terms of credibility, but also the market knowledge that you bring to the table, which are actually two key attributes that we're measuring in the survey. Amit, we are switching gear now, and I hope you play along. We have a quick question round for you. The first question is, name a historic figure that you would like to meet, and what would you ask them?
Well, before the lockdown, so in 2019, I actually had, I had the opportunity to have a private audience with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, which sort of just totally came out of the blue. And not that I was, I'd been a big follower or anything, but it was just an opportunity that was too good in my mind to pass by. And that was a very, very interesting hour and a half that one spent. And I think yeah, but no, I mean, no specific historical figure comes to mind, but I must say that one was a pretty special experience.
Yeah, sounds it. Were you able to ask any questions, Amit?
Yes, it was almost like an investor meeting, and but the roles were reversed.
Oh, fantastic. How exciting. Do you have a favorite band or singer?
Well, you're really bringing on the questions. No, I mean, I think my favorite, bands and singers go back to, I suppose, my college days, which were school or college days, which were a long, long, long time ago. But at that point of time, I think it was a lot to do with rock and heavy rock, which is, I don't even know if it's a genre there anymore. But of course, I really do enjoy music, and it's been great, in fact, through the lockdown, I have to say.
Yeah, fantastic. The questions are getting better. So, do you have a favorite quote from a movie that you use regularly?
Uh, not from a movie, but there's this quote when I was previously, before I moved to Europe, I was based in China and in Singapore, and there used to be this one quote I always had on my board in my office. I don't think it's from a movie, but it was. When I think about it, I think it's pretty apt for IR as well. And it said that if you can't explain it simply enough, that something to the extent that means that you just don't you don't understand it well enough. And I think that's something which I really try to continue to focus on, right? So it's all about simplification, which in the IR world is very important. How do you take the complex issues, etc., and just simplify in order to be able to pass the message across. So that's a quote. I don't think it's from a movie though.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense though. How do you relax, Amit?
Well, relaxation is, well, previously I think I used to I used to, well, I love the travel, and there used to be a lot of it, so that was in some ways linked to my relaxation as well. That's, of course, there's not much travel been happening for a while. Lots of readings. So I've been reading a huge amount, and then of course some level of sport. So I think between reading and sport, and more recently, more focus, on nutrition and items like that. So I think those are the combination of those is what helps one relax.
Very, very good. And do you have any personal objectives for 2021 or resolutions?
Well, personal and professional. Personal, well, somewhere I guess connected. I would say it's something we're doing together as a team, in fact, which is to focus a lot more on well-being. It's an important element for the company, and I think it's important for myself and for my team as well. It's been an intense year in different circumstances, as all of us probably recognize. And I think that in 2021 we want to make sure we have the right amount of balance, we have the right amount of time to for rest and relaxation, to be able to then work even more effectively. So I think that's probably one personal objective, and maybe a second one for me is, it's always been the case that I want to make sure that my team is developing, is learning, uh, is doing more and more. So it's there's no more fulfilling uh, result than seeing your team succeed and do better in their jobs, or to take different roles within the company. And I think that's also how we are internally promoting the IR department, by getting the topmost talent within the department, training them, and then helping them build their career further within the company. So we want to continue to do that.
Fantastic. Well, on that note, Amit Bhalla, head of IR of Schneider Electric, thank you very much for your time. And again, congratulations on the fantastic achievement in this year's Europe Executive Team Survey 2020. I hope you'll be able to repeat the success this year. The survey is about to start, and hopefully we'll be able to meet in person this year.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for all the good work you and your organization are doing. So thanks a lot.